Hello, so I'm Annie. I'm going to try to finish this in the 10 minutes. So this presentation came from my master dissertation that I'm currently working on, and surprise, it's on game design, and it's also related to board games. So this is an extension for that. So moving along, a quick overview of the presentation. We are going to brief through the MDA framework, and then we can finally start talking about fun stuff about illustration and game design. But a quick disclaimer, if any of you is looking for the holy grail on how to design board games, you are definitely in the wrong presentation. I'm not going to give you that, I'm just going to talk about fun stuff. So probably designers present in the room are familiar with this very rigid framework of MDA, if I'm not mistaken, was in 2004 from... Anyways, it transcribes directly the player side to designer's side. Mechanics basically talks about the components of the game, the dynamics is how they interact, and the aesthetics is the desirable emotional effect on the player. This causes a problem when designing board games if you follow a strict framework like this, because when you are playing board games, you are dependent on players reading and interpreting the rules and actually understanding and actively implementing them while they are playing. The game itself doesn't have a feedback system like video games. But anyways, enough about this. So, does anyone in the room is aware of board games that have started their design process by illustration? Don't be shy, you can say some of the names.
I think the answer is no.
Legal 7, but yeah.
So, to continue, do these games have anything in common when you first think of them?
They look good.
Yes.
Size started, that was the one I was going to say, that started as illustrations first.
Yeah, both of these games actually started from illustration, despite them being very beautifully illustrated. Here, they both started from illustration. So first I would like to talk a little bit about side. That the game development started with the illustration series of The World of 1920 Plus by Jakub Rozelski, a Polish illustrator. And in this case, the illustrations gave origin to the world building and the narrative for the game. And the mechanics were thought in a way to immerse the players in the game world. So overall, it created a more immersive experience for the players. And the second designer is Ryan Laukout from Red Raven Games. He started as an illustrator and then started designing his own games. Pretty much all of his games, except one, I'm not reminding the name, but it's about exploration in the mountains and has some mines as well. He started from the mechanics, and he says that's one he doesn't appreciate much. But he starts from the illustration, and I actually think his process is very interesting because he starts by illustrating the cover of the game, then creates an elevator pitch with a narrative of the game, of who you are going to be, what is going to happen, and only then starts thinking about the mechanics. Thinking about this in this way, it's also creates more immersive board gameplay that generates the players instead of only describing the game by the mechanics, by certain moments that they had while playing the game. The picture here is from Sleeping Gods. So there are some pros about starting from the illustration. It opens way to create more immersive board games, as well influences the narrative and the mechanics, even though the narrative can also influence the mechanics, but that's a whole other story that we don't have time nor are here to discuss that right now. But although these are some valid pros of starting like this, there are still some open questions that need to be studied and to reach to a clarification. That the main one is, does the designer also need to be the illustrator for this approach to actually work? Or if the designer is not the illustrator, do both of them have to be equally excited about the project for this to work? The two examples I presented were actually one the designer was the illustrator and the other, they were different people, but they were equally excited about the project, so it worked. But what if the designer is not the illustrator and doesn't have the funds to hire one while he's designing the game? Can that still be a valid approach? Does just doing the things with stick figures is enough for this to actually work, or it doesn't? So I have here my lovely references in case you want to fact check what I said. And yeah, thank you.
Congratulations, Annie. Annie is doing a master research, and I'm helping her with this research. So she was quite nervous, but I think you did very well in your presentation, and you are addressing I think a relevant topic. We still have 2 minutes, so we can ask you things. Do you agree that this is possible to start from the illustration as a systematic and a viable game design approach?
I do perfectly. Even in the last question that you mentioned, that even if the illustrator is not the game designer, I believe that nowadays with AI can help you to boost the creative process and and unlock some ideas that you don't have for your game, and can lead you to a path that creates a more different game or something like that. So I believe that are tools that can help you, and even other illustrators that can give you creative feedback from what you are doing in your stick notes, can help you designing a more engaged game, with more focused in the narrative, and then you're thinking about all the mechanics that can have that to the game.
I was thinking about the same, because I was thinking during the presentation, I was thinking, oh, but if I want to do this, how could it be done? It's only for artists. But then, yeah, your last question triggered me exactly. With AI, I could develop some prototyping illustrations that would set up what I'm thinking would be the immersive environment of the game, and then it could be better done in a later stage by someone who could do it.
Yeah, I also think that, because if you are also starting from the illustration and you are also the illustrator, to one that serves as inspiration doesn't have to necessarily be the final looks and images that are going to be present in the game.
Usually it's not.
Yeah, usually it's not.
I believe that there will be a lot of iterations throughout the illustration process that leads to the final draft or the final illustration that will be used. Actually, in my process, I always do the first doodle pitch. So stick figures and sketchnoting. What is the thinking process that I want that the game have for the player, and only that, if I can express everything in that sketchnoting, I start trying to develop the game. But if I cannot express it, it's no good for me.
I think that, of course, this is a master's, but I was thinking later if you should research, or you could research, not illustration per se, but if you would research the role of visuals, visual notes, visual schemes in game design, then you would probably have something like 100% games had a visual scheme has an origin or something.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Annie. It was brilliant. Thank you.
Great, thank you.